Today, we're diving into a legacy that kicks off with an orphaned boy on a pretty dangerous journey and ends with a gift that would go on to change thousands of lives. It's a story that spans centuries, crosses entire continents, and is built on a foundation of just incredible resilience and love.
Now, to really get a feel for this story, you have to understand its sheer scale. I mean, we're not just talking about one or two generations here. This journey begins way back in 14th century Ming Dynasty China and stretches all the way to today. It's an epic tale, moving across oceans and through time.
So our story really begins with what you might call an ancestral echo. At its core, this is a story of migration, a huge journey across the southern seas, all in the quest for a brand new future.
Okay, let's unpack the sheer depth of this history. Li Kim-ming's family line goes all the way back to the 14th century Li Tiao-en clan in Fujian. But the more immediate story, well, it's one of incredible hardship. Kim-ming's grandfather, Daya Wo, was orphaned when he was just 8 years old. His own father and brother died in the Philippines trying to make their fortune. And yet, he took that same risk. Around 1915, Daya journeyed to Malaya, and against all odds, he actually found success, bringing his family over in 1923. He really set the stage for everything that was to come. But that foundation of resilience, the one built by his grandfather, was about to be tested all over again in the next generation. And that brings us to a chapter we're calling Forged in Hardship, because it focuses on two lives that were just defined by the struggle to survive.
And here, you can see the parallel struggles of our two main characters. On one hand, you have Li Kim-ming. He lived this nomadic life, bouncing between rubber estates. Then, during the Japanese occupation, his father went blind, and the family was plunged into such deep poverty that his sisters had to be given away for adoption. Just imagine that. Meanwhile, Wang Chu-ying was on her own path of resilience. Her own mother was a foundling, literally an abandoned baby in China. So Chu-ying grew up illiterate, her hands stained with latex from the rubber trees she tapped from a very young age.
You know, if a single number could capture the profound lack of opportunity they faced, it's this one. 2. That's it. That's the total number of years Li Kim-ming ever spent in primary school. Poverty forced him to stop before he was even old enough to really learn. A childhood where your entire education ends after just 2 years. That was his reality. So how do you even overcome a start like that? Well, that brings us to the turning point. That incredible moment where two people decided to take control of their own destiny and started to build a future from, quite literally, nothing.
So, in 1970, armed with nothing but their own two hands and this just unbreakable work ethic, they made their stand. They opened a small provision shop, Eng Huat Heng. And look, this wasn't just a business for them. It was a declaration. It was a line drawn in the sand, basically saying, the cycle of poverty stops with us.
Later on, the shop took on a new name, one that just perfectly symbolized their partnership, Ming Ying. It was a fusion of their names, Li Kim-ming and Wang Chu-ying. It stood for not just their shared lives, but their shared dream. You know, their greatest asset was always each other.
But their story doesn't just end with business success. Oh no, it builds into something so much bigger. It builds into the heart of a legacy, a chapter where true riches weren't measured in money, but in generosity.
And nothing, absolutely nothing, captures this better than this powerful statement right here. The man with only 2 years of schooling and the woman who could not read became philanthropists. Just think about that contrast for a second. The very opportunities they were denied were the exact ones they were most determined to give to other people.
And they did it in really tangible, life-changing ways. They didn't just hope for a better future for others, they went out and built it. First, they donated a classroom to the Hualien school. Then, in this incredible act of generosity, they donated nearly half an acre of land to the Trechimen Chinese primary school, creating a foundation for thousands and thousands of children to learn and grow.
So all of this brings us to the core purpose of this story, which is really a powerful message to everyone who follows in their footsteps. It's about understanding the deep, deep roots from which your own success is grown. The message is crystal clear. Remember the red earth of the rubber estates where your family toiled. Remember the blind father and the abandoned mother. And most importantly, remember those two young people who looked at their circumstances and just decided, with everything they had, that the struggle would end with them. This just captures the central truth of their entire legacy. For all the future generations,
This single, powerful line says it all. Your wings were bought by their toil. The freedom and the opportunities that are enjoyed today, they were earned through incredible sacrifice.
So you see, the story of Ming and Ying doesn't really end here. It keeps going with every single descendant who carries their values forward. And that leaves us with one final, crucial question for them, and maybe for all of us to think about. What legacy will you build?